A very energetic weather pattern taking shape on all of the charts today, even the extended period showing some interesting developments with regeneration of another Arctic outbreak. We'll look at that in a bit. The satellite imagery also showing the Pineapple Express, an atmospheric river flowing out of Mexico into the Gulf and into the eastern United States. And there you see it on the precipitable water chart, 1.5-inch amounts all the way up to southwestern Georgia, 1-inch amounts into South Carolina, Atlanta, and Montgomery, Alabama. The surface analysis this afternoon shows that polar front very far south, all the way into Mexico, even getting some snow south of Chihuahua into the Sierra Madres. Here in the U.S., winter storm moving from the central Mississippi River region into the Appalachians this evening. Snow being reported across Tennessee, parts of northern Georgia, and in through the Huntsville area and back to Memphis and Little Rock. That's laid down a trail of snow from around Dallas-Fort Worth into the Ozarks and on up into the Ohio River region. And of course, we don't just look at the storm systems. We look at the air masses represented by high pressure, large western U.S. plateau high. That also represents a dissipating anticyclone all the way from Idaho down to the Four Corners and into the El Paso area. Some very cool temperatures this afternoon. And we're looking for some very cold nights across the southwest. Freeze warnings in effect across parts of southeastern Arizona. And those have been expanded into the lower deserts. There's the scoreboard on those temperatures dropping to 30 in Tucson this weekend. Ajo dropping to 36 and finally to freezing on Sunday. And in the far southeast region, Wilcox, all the way down into the mid-teens, 14 degrees as you start the morning on Saturday. In the northeast, another cold day, clouds rapidly invading from the west, coming in from Pennsylvania and the Great Lakes. Temperatures today were in the 20s in the Appalachians into the Midwest, 30s just about everywhere else, and maybe a few 40s in Rhode Island and Connecticut. The Mid-South Ohio River Valley getting blasted yet again 4 days after another system moved through that same area. We're going to cover the details in just a little bit, but focusing just on the northeast. Most of the region free of any problems, but down to the south, winter weather advisories throughout the Midwest area for tonight. Up in Michigan, another 2 to 4 inches of snow expected. Everything is shifting to the east, and many of our problems should start shutting down by tomorrow evening. In the Mid-South, winter storm warning, augmented by a 185-knot jet stream traversing Tennessee. The winter storm warning runs through midnight in northeastern Arkansas and western Tennessee and gradually falls off during the nighttime and tomorrow morning as that system moves on off to the east. The highest snow amounts running from Little Rock up to Nashville, that corridor should see about 5 to 9 inches of snow, and that tapers off to about 4 to 5 inches in actually this area right here, Knoxville, the Tri-Cities area, and into far southeastern Virginia. And throughout the southeastern U.S., we see the classic baroclinic leaf and also ingesting some of that subtropical moisture coming up with that plume from Mexico. There's a better look at everything. Dry slot approaching from the west, and that strong contrast between the very moisture-rich air across Atlanta, Birmingham, and the drier air to the west. That tends to signal the location of the jet stream. So right in between, this is a reflection of the transverse circulation. You have sinking motion on the left side and rising motion on the south side. And that's about exactly where that jet core is. At 34,000 feet, the 250 millibar chart showing those intense winds across the Nashville area. And as we go into the overnight hours, we have this strong jet core shifting into Virginia and then quickly out into the Atlantic for tomorrow. So the dynamics will start to wind down It's going to be replaced by pretty much cold air advection throughout the northeastern U.S., and we'll have a continuation of those lake effect snows out there in the Lake Ontario and Lake Erie snowbelts. Here's a quick overview of the surface plots. A little bit of lingering rain and snow in northeast Texas, snow on the back end in northeastern Arkansas, dry slot in Mississippi, and we pick up the warm conveyor belt further to the east. This precip all in Alabama is rain, although it looks like north of Birmingham it does transition over to snow. In Georgia, a lot of it is rain. Temperatures fall off to 32 from Rome to Athens, and then we pick up freezing rain and snow north of that. Also, precip picking up in South Carolina. Most of that is rain, but the northern half of the state looks like just up to the north and northwest of Columbia, that's going to be snow, but down on the coast, rain at this time. Now, where is the heaviest snow falling? Well, it looks like the higher radar reflectivities are in the Nashville to Paducah area. 3/4 of a mile visibility at Paducah. Visibility, always a good measure of the snow strength. A tool that's often overlooked is traffic plots. Usually when you start seeing the oranges and reds, that indicates heavier precipitation. It does look like some slowdowns in southern Indiana. Not too bad in Kentucky and Tennessee, but what's this? I don't know if that's rush hour traffic, but yeah, up to the northwest of Winston-Salem, looks like some slow going through here. So we're talking about this area. Visibility is about 3/4 of a mile, so that appears to be some heavy snow coming down. And that other area we looked at looks like about 1/2 mile to 1/4 mile. So that's going to be some of the worst snowfall rates in this particular storm. Anyway, things moving rapidly to the east this afternoon and evening. In the southern plains, cold air advection is underway, but the cloudiness moving on off to the east and revealing down below a track of snow across northwestern Oklahoma into Kansas, Oklahoma itself, around Oklahoma City and down into the Red River and all the way down towards Dallas. Let's go to the multispectral imagery and see if we can get a better look at that, kind of differentiate the snow from the clouds. Well, the day cloud phase product, that's one way to do it. You can see the snow rapidly eroding out there around Bowie, Graham, Jacksboro, and so on. And we do have some viewers in Texas, so you can check that out and see exactly where that snow occurred. Looks like very little of it south of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Quite a bit of it up into the central plains. Amarillo, they reported 9 inches of snow, 4 inches reported at Albuquerque, and 4 inches officially at the Norman Forecast Office. We have a freeze warning for tonight for South Texas, Victoria, Cotulla, down to Kingsville and Laredo. Temperatures will be down into the upper 20s. Further up north, you don't have to worry about that. That's an expired winter storm watch, but one big problem they're forecasting is black ice on the roads in North Texas tonight. Temperatures will fall to the lower 20s. A lot of melting of that snow, standing water on the roadways means treacherous conditions. And remember, that is black ice. That means it can sneak up on you when you are least expecting it. And black ice is certainly the worst. So not a good night for traveling. In the northern plains today, it was relatively mild, lots of 30s and even a few 40s. But up to the north, it does remain cold in eastern North Dakota, northwestern Minnesota, where highs were expected to remain in the teens. And out to the west, yet another Alberta clipper starting to form. We have winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories in effect for this weekend as this next system drops to the southeast. See if we can see any of it on the water vapor imagery. Yeah, certainly we do. There it is up there in Montana. Pretty good baroclinic cloud mass starting to move southeast. Let's take a look at the upper air charts. So this is for everybody, not just the northern plains, so you can focus on your favorite area. Large scale trough across the Great Lakes into Texas. That's associated with the deeper cold air across that part of the country. Some ridging where we have the mild conditions out there ahead of the developing Alberta Clipper. That's going to be it, the large area of upward motion, and the main trough itself still out to the west of the Bitterroots. So going into tonight, you can see this energy heading into the high plains kind of breaks off into two areas, one across the Dakotas for midday tomorrow, another even more strong one through the Four Corners region. So there's one of the main troughs, maybe a couple of smaller ones out ahead of it, and this whole area right here, an area of upper lift, coupled with the left front quadrant of the Jetmax, which is located right through there. You can see those black lines kind of scrunched together right there. That's going to be the tight pressure gradients or height gradients in the upper levels, and that marks the location of the Jetmax. Then we go into the remainder of the weekend. Dynamics pulling out into the Central Plains, another lobe heading further south into Texas and swinging on through. And here's another one. So a lot of ripples moving through this flow. And we see kind of a shift here going into Tuesday. Got this cutoff low starting to detach and break off of California, another vortex in the Four Corners area, and this very deep vortex in the Great Lakes region. And we start opening up this northerly flow. That is a cold pattern, so that will bear watching. Here comes another disturbance south. So this is a very dynamic and fast-moving weather pattern. Off the coast of California, a large cutoff low, which is more of a stagnant weather pattern. You can see that low just kind of parked out there, putting California under southerly flow. So that may be kind of wet for them, depending on how much moisture is entrained. Meanwhile, this other vortex in Texas, well, this is 156 hours out, so we're not going to get bogged down in the details, but that could be a potent weather maker for late next week. And a couple large troughs really digging into the base of this long wave. And by the time we get to the extended period, this looks like wide open Arctic flow into the U.S. So this is where we have a definite pattern change. So that's all for... No, I'm just kidding. It kind of feels like we went through the whole forecast, didn't we? Now let's get back to the charts. Across the southwestern U.S., fair skies. Mild afternoons and cold nights. 60s for highs in the lower deserts, with 40s up to the north in the Great Basin area, 30s in Utah and in the Snake River region. 60s across California. Yesterday was quite warm. We saw San Francisco rising to 71 degrees, tying a record for the date. Oakland got up to 70, Redwood City 75, and Sacramento 69. Gusty offshore winds will continue through the weekend across almost all of California. Santa Ana winds will return early next week. Let's take a look at Los Angeles. I think those wildfires have started to die down. The Palisades fire continuing to burn at this hour. Looks like a little flare-up just in the past 20 to 30 minutes at the very end. See that right there. We can look at the fire products and check the thermal emissions and see what's going on. And yeah, a flare-up just in the past 30 minutes. So not over for that part of the California region. The other fires looking much better, especially up there near Altadena. And I did want to check briefly what the winds are doing. This is the wind plots and the gust in miles an hour in red. Yesterday, the gusts were about 25 to 35 through the Calabasas area where they had a flare-up towards dusk. Today looks like 20 to 30, so a little bit better today. In the higher elevation, still a few gusts up near 34 miles an hour, 33 out around South Beach and Deer Creek Beach. And checking out the northwestern U.S., cold air advection starting to sweep into Portland and Seattle. This appears to be a warm conveyor belt coming in from the Pacific. And if we check out the moisture channel, That's certainly what's happening there. Classic S shape on the backside of this Bear Clinic system, dry advection across Oregon, and there's that new Bear Clinic system in the Bitterroots and Montana. Winter weather advisories in the Bitterroots and the Northern Cascades for this weekend, and other than that, no real problems. So we return to the national surface map. There's that frontal system in the northwestern U.S. heading into the Great Basin area. We move out into the Pacific, and we've got this blocking high, 1036 millibars. That's kind of a summertime weather pattern. However, that is keeping the storm track up to the north. And there it is, the next weather system heading into Alaska with deep southerly flow through that region. This weekend, actually on Sunday, we are looking for a major southerly wind flow event with Chinook winds in southern Alaska. Let me show you the charts for that. Yeah, every so often we take a look up there. This is what's going on right now. Very stormy out in the Bering Sea and in the Gulf of Alaska. Couple of bands of precipitation coming in from the south. Strong onshore flow already by tomorrow morning, and the big event comes in for Sunday. There it is, deep southerly flow, atmospheric river heading right into Anchorage at 4 in the morning, and that gradient really increasing, and gradually things start shifting to the east. But much of the southern coast still remains under a strong gradient with that surface low well out to the west, 968 millibars, and gradually that lifts into the Chukchi Sea. Here's a look at the wind gusts, or the maximum winds, and you can see that by Saturday already getting quite stormy there in the Gulf of Alaska. And here's surge number 2. Look at those grays coming in at the very bottom. That's ominous. That's 50 knots and above, sweeping right into the Kenai Peninsula, the Cook Inlet, and the Valdez region. Things moving eastward during the day on Sunday. That's the core, and even out to the west, things still very gusty across southwestern Alaska. So this will be quite a weather system for many areas of the southern half of Alaska for Sunday, actually Saturday, Sunday, and early Monday. And looks like problems continue later on Monday for northwestern Alaska. So, comparatively, today not really looking all that bad. Heading into Canada, there's our big Arctic high across Victoria Island, pushing a bit of that cold air mass into the Yellowknife and Great Slave Lake area. Further south, mild in the Canadian prairies, temperatures coming up to the 20s, 30s, and even 40s. Downslope flow there around Canmore down to, what was that town? Cardston. Yeah, I used an ATM machine there many years ago. Alberta was the first place in Canada I ever went to. Anyway, that was long ago. Maybe sometime I'll show you the pictures of that. Anyway, let's take a look at the forecast here in the U.S. All right, let's go ahead and look at that forecast. Starting out with the current charts, you can see that warm advection into the high plains, driving this warm front into the Dakotas. Meanwhile, a weak Alberta clipper descends into the western Great Lakes, and there's our outgoing winter storm in the mid-south into the Carolinas with mixed phase precipitation between Atlanta and Columbia. Snow sweeps through New York and New England tomorrow as the last of that winter storm exits. Everything heading off into the Atlantic for tomorrow morning. Lingering snow up there in the northeast. Here's another surge of cold air coming down. That's that Alberta clipper we just discussed. Widespread snows, some rain out ahead of the system in Nebraska and Kansas, as the air mass there is still rather warm. Snows will increase across Minnesota Saturday night as that wave traverses that region. And in behind, strong cold advection moving in through the Dakotas early on Sunday. As we go into the day on Sunday, major snows across the western Great Lakes early Sunday, pushing into Lake Michigan and Lake Huron during the day. Cold advection continues into the northern plains. No surprise right there. They just keep getting steamrolled by cold air over and over. Single-digit highs down to Bismarck and Dickinson for Sunday. Minot looking for a high of 1 degree. And it doesn't look like a whole lot going on at the surface, but aloft there is massive upper air support, 200 knot jet stream across Missouri and Illinois Sunday night, indicating the powerful kinetic energy coming together in that region due to those strong thermal contrasts between the Great Lakes and the Gulf. For Monday, Arctic air spreads deep into Minnesota, pushes into Wisconsin, Illinois, and Iowa. Single digits from La Crosse to Minneapolis. This is going to be the coldest day in Minnesota probably so far this winter. Looking for a high in Minneapolis of 7 degrees. Fargo and Grand Forks only looking for a high of 0. Lake effect snows picking up once again. However, on the high plains, still remaining quite warm. Highs on Monday only about 34 in Denver, so just not very much cold air going west. Also in California, we have those Santa Ana wind conditions starting up again. You can see that pressure differential. That is 2468, 10 millibars, so that's in that Santa Ana range, and that will persist into Tuesday. I think they're forecasting some strong conditions for Tuesday there, and you can see that there is a 10 to 12 millibar difference, probably not as severe as what we had earlier this week. Cold air remains entrenched in the central U.S. and the Great Lakes region for midweek. Warm advection starts in the high plains on Wednesday. 50s start showing up in western Kansas. And we're looking for the possibility of rain developing, maybe snow showers in Arizona for Thursday. And this is where we see some big pattern changes late next week. There's a bunch of cold air coming south. And as we saw on the upper level charts, there is the upper air support to bring that pretty far south. Although the models don't really have a good track record with Arctic air that far out, but a lot of indicators coming together suggesting that that very well could be a possibility. We're talking about, Martin Luther King Day, that weekend. Look at that, big 1046 millibar high. Again, we're going to have to look for consistency in the models. We're going to have to check back in on this on Monday and again on Wednesday to know if this is really going to happen. But, this is pretty ominous. This is a indicator of a significant push of Arctic air, and you can see that even the high plains definitely getting some of that action, even into the Great Basin area, looking for some very cold temperatures as well. And that's going to be the very last frame that I have. And that's the way the cookie crumbles this Friday, January 10th. Again, the closing titles have been revised to show the current supporters. I've had to remove a few people who have expired as supporters. So if your name is missing, you may want to check on your support status. So have a great weekend. And we'll be back here on Monday for the supporters and on Wednesday for everybody else. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.